Look, we know it's been a pretty rough year. But as the winter nights drew closer, I realised more than ever what I craved was that human connection, away from all the Zoom calls and the team chats that seem to have become the norm. So I did something about it. Taking into consideration all the restrictions and the safety guidelines, I invited some local Edinburgh guests to join me around the fireside for a chat in my garden. No film crew, no production team, just stripped back conversation with a whiskey, of course, and every now and again, the requirement for some warm clothing. My guests included individuals from the worlds of music, sport, film, and luxury, all with an interesting journey to share. So please do join us around the fire pit, for my next dram needs no introduction. Remember, you might need a hat and gloves. Good evening, and welcome again to another episode of My Next Dram Needs No Introduction. I'm delighted to be joined this evening around our rather smoky fire pit, Roberta Hall, owner and head chef at the Little Chartroom, Edinburgh. Good evening, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Thanks for popping down and joining us for this evening. The drink is a good fireside drink. I promise you we have some Glenfiddich Fire and Cane, one of our new experimental series, and a little bit of spiced orange ginger ale from Fever Tree mixed in there just as a highball. So I thought we'd start with something a bit spicy and warming as we're around the fire.
Cheers.
Now tell me, Roberta, good, right?
It's delicious. Yeah, like really delicious. Yeah.
Surprisingly so.
Not at all.
Now tell me, Roberta, you've had quite an interesting, I was obviously reading quite a few of the positions you've held in your years, and now back in your hometown of Edinburgh with the Little Chartroom. How has the progression to there been? What is your journey?
I cooked from a really young age. I've always loved food. It was my main focal point, even in school. There wasn't obviously that much. We had to take it from economics, as everyone did, I think, in school. I remember in 5th year of school, you had to go into a work experience week somewhere, and everyone was kind of submitting where they were going to, like, the ideas that they had of where they wanted to go. And I remember speaking to my parents, and they said, well, your biggest interest is food, so why don't you go and do a week in a kitchen somewhere? Like, there's lots of good restaurants in Edinburgh. And so I wrote into a few different restaurants, and one of them got back in touch.
When you say a few, how many?
Well, about 5 or 6. Yeah,
and only one got back.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, or maybe they did get back in touch, but they said no, sorry.
Bet they're kicking themselves now.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was the Tower restaurant that actually got back in contact with me, and I went and did a week, and I just loved it. It was it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. This busy, quite frantic, crazy, but hot and just intense. And that was it. I was hooked.
I think it's quite difficult for people that haven't worked in a kitchen to appreciate it. I haven't. I've been front of house all my life.
Yeah.
But I was very fortunate to work with a very talented brigade as a restaurant manager down at One Aldwych in London, and watching those guys and
insane.
The heat, as you say, and the bustle and the space, and then you come out those service doors into the dining room,
the calm.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So do you think it takes a special person to get that bug?
Definitely. Yeah. It's definitely not. I think it's a funny one. It's not for everyone. You need to be passionate about food and like I said it, you said at the bug, and just have this slightly sort of different view of it all, and it's hard to really is hard to kind of pinpoint and explain what it is that I really, really love about it. But yeah, I think it's just a combination of all these, just in sort of,
And you say from a young age you'd always cooked. Was that an influence from parents, or was there something in there that you just took you off on your own little journey?
My parents, they do cook. My mum actually doesn't love cooking, hilariously. My dad has a big fascination with food though, and they love food. They love like going out and eating, and we did that a lot. And I think that's kind of where it spiraled from. And I cooked a lot at home. I would try, the dinner parties that I would make for my parents and whatnot, and just loved having people around. I think that sort of that loved being a host from an early age.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed doing that. That kind of is obviously that's what hospitality is all about. So I've sort of become quite interested in Southern American food, and a lot of stuff down there is barbecued.
Yeah.
And it's I'm sort of, as much as I'm classically trained, very French sort of British style cuisine trained, there's just so many other cuisines that are interesting and fascinating to learn about, and so I'm just trying to kind of self-teaching a little bit, but it's just reading lots and experimenting.
Yeah,
I'm in a position now where I can do that, which is God.
Now back in Edinburgh now, very successful restaurant. Can't have been plain sailing all the way to it. There must have been some challenges along the way, which have made you the person you are now, or given you some learnings about how you conduct yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of touched on it before. You have to be a certain person, I think, to work in a kitchen, and it is an intense environment. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and lie and say, oh yeah, anybody could do it. I think I would like to encourage that people should definitely try it, because it's not something to be. I think there is this kind of scared people, especially for females. Perhaps they're scared to go and work in a kitchen. They shouldn't be, because of course you can do it.
Yeah.
But I do think you need to be a certain kind of person. And challenges that I faced, every kitchen I've gone into has been, I've always wanted to challenge myself, and so I've picked quite hard. Like, I think I've picked fairly hard kitchens to go into. And
can you name those?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The kitchen.
Okay.
Castle Terrace. I went across to Dubai for a year and a half, and I worked in the Burj Al Arab.
Right. Okay.
That was it was a really random opportunity that just came up, and it seemed like too good an opportunity to give up, to not try out.
Yeah, I'd imagine one of the biggest challenges there is communication, because they do tend to hire globally into Dubai, which
entirely
then creates a culture clash, a language barrier, so many different things to try and smooth out to make life easy working there.
It was, and if it was to summarize my experience there, I would say that it was the biggest issue, the biggest problem. Like I loved my experience and my time there, but it was hard. Like it was a big hotel, 160 chefs, I think. My kitchen had 17 different chefs, which had 10 different nationalities. I was the only girl, which is not an issue for me.
Right.
It's been like that quite a lot for my career, and so I never sort of let it. Yeah, it didn't bother me. And I find it fascinating meeting all these different people from all these different countries and learning their ways of life
and their cooking as well.
And exactly, yeah, no, totally. But yeah, God, it was hard. So much got lost in translation. Like, it was frustrating. You look back and think, what a waste of time in some aspects. But I still absolutely loved my time there, and just the group of people that I did get to work with were such an incredible group. So
you've travelled around quite a lot. I mean, Dubai may be the furthest you have travelled, but I saw in your resume a little village which I hadn't heard of for quite some time, Abbots Ripton. Now, yeah. I actually used to live in Cambridgeshire, just on the edge of it, actually, and as an avid cyclist, we used to stop in the cafe at Abbots Ripton, and I was reading.
That's so funny. It's so small world.
Wow,
like,
the Abbot Bell. Yes, yeah.
Really?
So you that was, I would say, the first time of taking on something that was everything. It wasn't the back of house. It wasn't ordering up stock for Monday. It wasn't making sure the orders were right. The GP was spot on. That was a whole thing. Tell us a bit about that.
It was the big step before the bigger step. It was the step away from having been in a head chef's role, like you say, doing all of that stuff, all of those things. But seeing because it was myself and my husband that because we run the restaurant together. We knew that we wanted to open up our own restaurant. We wanted to, just get the experience, like you said, of doing everything before we took that massive step. We also didn't have the finance, and sort of felt this was a good opportunity to use someone else's money. And
Why not?
Yeah. But also it was the whole kind of job opportunity was another good situation for us to save money as well. And it was, I think, one of the riskiest decisions that I've made in my career, actually, because I was working for a very good company up in Edinburgh, the Kitchen Group. Had a really good position. My husband Sean, he was the restaurant manager of Castle Terrace. We were both in really the best positions that we could be in that restaurant, and it was great. But we knew that we wanted more, and that we wanted to challenge ourselves again.
Yeah.
And so it was a big risk, but and it was very different. I'm not gonna lie, it was a massive shock to the system when we got down there, because it was a pub, it had rooms, it had a restaurant as well. It was, a lot more covers, food. It was a lot more simple, because the work with the food, the amount of work in the food at Castle Terrace was just on another level.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it was the hardest move I think I've ever made.
Away from family, away from familiarity, comfort.
Yeah.
Not comfort.
No, but
it was a beautiful village.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, God, no, it's stunning, absolutely stunning, and such a lovely, welcoming village. I think the one weekend there was, I think I was sitting in the garden and was going, oh my God, this is where everyone was a bit worried about us making this move, and it was just the wrong move, and I was quite upset and did feel a bit like it would been perhaps just it'd been the wrong decision, but said, right, we're here, let's make the best of this situation that we can.
Yeah.
And we turned things around, and we got things to where we wanted them to be.
Was the Bell were you taking over a business with a standard that you thought we just maintain this, or did you go in thinking we are going to up the game on this?
I think we had those kind of really romantic notions of beautiful country pub.
The Hand in Flowers, then.
The Hand in Flowers, or the Black Swan. That was the kind of the mentality,
yeah.
Which was naive on our part.
Right.
We were going into a business that was very successful, and the reason that the job was there was because the couple that had owned the business were wanting to retire.
That's a huge chunk.
It is. It's easy to go. I think it's really quite easy to go in and fix a business that's failing. I say easy. It's easier. But it's a big, big challenge to go in and go into business doing well, change it because you want to change it to make it your own, and just make your own little tweaks, and still keep it being a successful business.
You keep the customers happy, who in that particular location are very supportive of those types of businesses.
Yeah.
And you came away from there with a really good feeling?
We did. No, we really, really did. It took time. We definitely, I think I lost quite a few customers when I took the sandwiches off the menu. And the omelettes.
Okay, you're painting a picture now.
Yeah. But it was such a good learning curve for us. Like we are so happy that we did it. From a running a business point of view, learning about ourselves, actually, because when you work for someone, even though yes, we were still working for somebody else, we were going in, and we had complete free reign of everything. I have not had that really before in any job. So
every decision you made was directly affecting how that business would operate.
Yeah, exactly. And it was great to sort of just have a bit of freedom, and really, quite scary.
A brilliant team, though. Let's face it. With the training that you have and the skill set that you have, and the restaurants you've worked in, and then your husband, restaurant manager at Castle Terrace, phenomenal strength. That's one hell of a front row to go into.
It's not a bad sort of starting off point.
Yeah.
No, it's good. and we are such a team. And that is, I think that especially got. I mean, we were a team at Castle Terrace and whatnot, but it was quite separate. But going down to Cambridgeshire really, solidified our made us sort of realize is our relationship going to work? Yes, it will.
Within the wagons, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, because you have to be able to do the relationship and the business. Can we do that? And it definitely set it tested us.
Glenfiddich, fire and cane. Campfire smokiness. Toffee sweetness. Question convention. Spark the unexpected.
Welcome back to our second part of our interview and chat. It's not an interview, it's just a chat around the fire with Roberta of the Little Chartroom. We've switched whiskies, as you'll see. We've gone for something a little bit more elevated with part of our grand series, the Grand Cru from Glenfiddich. Now, you've not tried this yet, have you?
Very excited.
Great, but you are a whiskey drinker, which I made sure of. So this is a 23-year-old whiskey finished in French cuvée wine casks. So it's French oak, which has previously held very high quality French wines. Which now you said you weren't much of a drinker of neat whiskey. Mm-hmm. I think you might be surprised by the mouthfeel of this and the sort of. I hope you are.
Cheers. Smooth. Really smooth. Like, yeah.
I know, I don't even have to edit out a cough. Where you're like, smooth! And then come back to camera.
That's incredible.
It's good, right?
Really, really good. Yeah.
You know, it's a whiskey all about taking a moment to celebrate, and everyone that tries it does say exactly the same. You know, it just doesn't taste like whiskey. It's just something completely different. So I'm sure there's many things you would want to celebrate in your life, but if you could give your younger self a piece of advice now, considering all those pivotal points in your career, what would that piece of advice be?
I think it's sort of to do with something like what I'm kind of doing just now. I'm self-teaching myself about different cuisines of the world. I think I wish I perhaps maybe not stayed as long in some of my jobs. Although not saying that you should just stay for 6 months. I think you need to get a good year, 2 years under your belt in any place that you work. But I do wish that I'd traveled a little bit more and really, like, maybe Asia. I'm really quite fascinated with that, really starting to tap into that area. Yeah, just got a little bit more experience under somebody rather than sort of just the reading and the which is great fun. And you know, God, I would encourage anyone to read as much as you can, try as much as you can. But I think I would have liked to have learned properly, like, you know, the kind of under somebody in Asia, in Japan, whatever. That would have been maybe something that I would say, go off and do that.
Yeah. You said you're quite into southern
American
cuisine.
food.
American,
Yeah.
A lot of barbecue and smoking.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Do you do a lot of that at the Little Chartroom?
We do. Yeah, we. I got a little yakitori grill about a year and a half ago, and
Japanese influence in there as well.
Yeah, they're just great. They work so well indoors. They come in perfect sizes. It's tiny, and the rest of the kitchen is tiny, so it's really, really good. And I feel now, how did I manage without this? Like, what did I do? This is, you know, it was a sort of not life-changing moment. That's not the right word, but it really was a turning point for some of the food in the restaurant that was now serving, and it geared me on to the new business that I set up just a few months ago, which is completely centered around barbecue food.
Oh, okay. Tell us a bit more about that.
It was during lockdown when the restaurant was closed. We're still closed actually right now, but that's fine. We're doing the finish at home meals, but we also wanted to do something a bit. We wanted to do something that allowed us to kind of feel like we were doing a service, even though we weren't. Right. And we started doing barbecue food on a Saturday that was hot food to just come get from the door and take away and eat straight away. And it went so well. I think people, you know, there was nowhere to go. Everyone's they just want something different. And And within that, I then really started trying out different recipes, different styles, and stuff from Southern America. And it was hugely successful, and we got this opportunity to set up a food truck on Portobello Prom. It was a very quick decision. It was quite a scary one to make, actually. Another scary move for us, but it would allow us to keep on all of our staff. It meant that we didn't have to let anyone go. And with everything how it was, having hot food in a takeaway van was actually a sort of a no-brainer, because that's all that you were allowed to do for 4 months, pretty much.
What surprised me was, for those that don't know Portobello, to walk along there and see this fabulous pop-up van from, a restaurant we all know and love very well, amongst the standard offering of that area.
Yeah.
That was a very brave move. I could imagine a lot of people who are used to paying a lot less for takeaway food, potentially balking, not understanding
totally
what you're doing there. So how did you overcome that? What you just didn't? You just say,
oh
people
God, we
that
had
knew.
so many conversations about it. It's like we still do. And run the menu changes every week, because I've got two amazing guys who are completely running the show. I mean, I really don't have to do very much, if I'm honest. It's fantastic, and they're doing such great food. I'm so happy and so proud of them. But every time the menu comes in, we're like, right, what's the price point? Blah, blah. It was one of the risks, because we thought, we knew the food that we wanted to do, we knew the price point that it would be, and we wondered, will this work? Because we knew, there's the fish and chip van, which you can get, I don't know, fish and chips for like a $5 or something insane. And we were like, will people get it? But it's doing so well. I mean, we actually just signed a 2-year lease.
Congratulations. Well, there's something to
Thank you.
celebrate.
Yeah. Here's to the 2-year lease. Thank you very much. It went down really well. It was so well received. The people of Portobello, it's actually an area that we could discover that was an area that we, as a restaurant, actually hadn't really touched upon much. We really learned where our client base was doing all these deliveries, because we know the areas that we deliver to.
Right.
And Portobello was an area that we do now, but we didn't before. And so it was like an opportunity to actually branch out to different section of Edinburgh.
There's been a bit of a renaissance with that part of town, I think. There's quite a lot of. It reminds me of when being in London, and when Highbury and Islington became too expensive, people moved then out to Hackney, and then beyond there into Walthamstow, and this was where Michelle and I moved from back up to Edinburgh. And it's sort of that squeezing out as the city grows.
Exactly.
And the prices go up.
Yeah,
but Portobello was always seen as that a bit too far and not much there. Mm-hmm. And now it's a great place to spend a Sunday.
It really is, yeah. I mean, I was down there today, and it was pretty miserable weather today, but the place was absolutely buzzing, and it's so lovely to see.
Good.
And like you say, people they're moving out to there, and it really is. It's a changed place, and it's incredible how many people are saying it's so lovely, it's so great that you're here. We're so excited. This is going to change things and bring more good businesses and independent businesses perhaps as well.
Exactly.
And give people the confidence to try something out.
That's it. With ourselves at Glenfiddich, we've done very similar. We started the single malt category in 1963. So, we forged ahead when everybody said blended whiskey was actually almost twice the price as a bottle of single malt.
Is it really?
Yeah, because single malt was only ever seen as an ingredient. So it was seen as a part rather than it was the tomato to the pizza. Yeah. So we were very instrumental in the 1960s of standing by what we knew was great and focusing on marketing around single malt and getting people to change their attitudes about it. And it sounds like you have a very similar attitude there as well, which is great. And it will happen. You start this ball rolling, and you can be at the forefront of it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And that's what. So my final question is, what next? Where are we going to see the Little Chartroom? Whether it be a pop up or a bigger venue or another venue, or what's next?
The first thing is to get the restaurant back up again, but that's only negative. So it's not about that. It's I mean, people will say to us all the time, "God, the restaurant's so small. You're going to outgrow it. You should get a bigger site." And I think I would be absolutely heartbroken if we left that site, because I'm so in love with it, and I know it's got so many problems because it is tiny and it's a battle every day.
Do you know there's a Michelin star sushi restaurant in a subway in Tokyo which only seats 8 people?
Exactly.
So
yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, like I say, it's a juggling act every day. But I couldn't not be there. I couldn't see us not have that. We've got a 15-year lease, and I want to be there for every year.
There's something wonderfully human about it. Without,
baby.
if you exactly, and if you'd said, "Oh yeah, we want to rubber stamp this across the UK," that doesn't fit with the person I've met over the time I've been chatting with you. That homely feel, that offering of hospitality, there is a tipping point when that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
The bigger you get.
No, totally. And I mean, you could try and open up a Little Chartroom too, but it would need me and John to be there to make it the same as the original. And well, we can't be in 2 places at one time. So, but no, I think the next step is it is another restaurant. We would love to see what we've managed to do down at the prom. We want to keep the prom going, obviously, to sign that 2-year lease.
Yeah.
Keep the food truck because it's great. And I think to be able to go to the beach and get that sort of food is just brilliant. But we'd love to see that concept in a restaurant as well.
So it's clear to see that all those journeys you've taken from that work experience in the tower all those years ago to your own business now, managing to wrap all that together, that understanding of what you aimed for, and the fact that you've got there.
Yeah.
And so here's to the future. And
Oh.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Oh, yeah,
We
we're
can't
not allowed to do
yeah,
that,
we're not
yeah.
allowed to.